そこにいるあなた、今、腹の底で何かが煮えくり返っているのを感じているのではありませんか。誰かに馬鹿にされましたか。軽く見られましたか。そして何より、愛想笑いでそれをごまかしてしまった自分自身に絶望しているのではないですか。結構です。実に結構。その怒りこそが、あなたの魂がまだ死んでいないという、何よりの証拠なのですから。ですが、よくお聞きなさい。その怒りを腹に溜めたまま腐らせてしまうか、それとも爆発的な芸術に変えて相手を黙らせ、運命をひっくり返すか。今ここが、あなたの人生の真の分岐点なのです。私は出口を仁三郎、かつて世の常識をすべてひっくり返し、投獄されようが弾圧されようが、高らかに笑って時代を遊び尽くした男です。今日は、私があなたに、舐められた時の極意、相手の魂を震え上がらせる言霊の返し技を、私の腹の底から、あなたの腹の底へ、直接お届けいたしましょう。覚悟はよろしいですか。これはただの処世術ではありません。あなたの人生を、卑屈な脇役から、堂々たる主役へと立て替える、魂の革命なのです。目を覚ましなさい。その瞬間に、あなたは自分の魂を売り渡してしまったのです。いいですか。舐められるというのは、相手が悪いのではありません。相手にあなたを舐めさせる隙を作ってしまった、あなた自身の心の在り方が、その現象を引き寄せているのです。この世は鏡です。あなたが自分のことを、どうせ価値のない人間だ、もう年だから仕方がない。波風を立てたくない。そうやって、自分の魂を小さく見積もっているからこそ、その卑屈な波動が、ハイエナのような連中を呼び寄せ、どうぞ私を馬鹿にしてください、と看板を掲げているようなものなのです。私は長年、あまたの人間を見てまいりました。権力者も、貧乏人も、善人も悪人も、ありとあらゆる人間と対峙してきました。その中で、はっきりと分かったことがあります。人を舐めてかかる人間というのは、実は誰よりも臆病で、誰よりも満たされていない、哀れな魂の持ち主なのです。本当に強い人間は、他者を威圧する必要などありません。本当に賢い人間は、他者を馬鹿にする暇などありません。彼らがなぜあなたを見下すかお分かりですか。それは、自分の中にある空虚さ、自信のなさ、恐怖を隠すために、誰かを手っ取り早く自分の下に置くことで、かりそめの安心感を得たいだけなのです。彼らは、あなたを攻撃しているようでいて、実は自分の心の闇と戦っているのです。自分の価値を確認するために、あなたという踏み台を必要としている、実に依存的で、弱い生き物なのです。そう見抜けば、腹も立たないでしょう。むしろ、哀れみすら湧いてくるはずです。ですが、ここで勘違いをしてはいけませんよ。相手が哀れだからといって、黙って3度バックになってやる慈悲など、この世には不要です。それは慈悲ではありません。ただの怠惰です。悪を見過ごし、無礼を許容することは、相手の増長を助長し、あなた自身の神聖を汚す、罪深い行為なのです。舐められたら、黙っていてはいけません。かといって、同じ土俵に降りて、泥仕合をする必要もありません。必要なのは、ユーモアと、愛と、そして氷のような冷静さを混ぜ合わせた、強烈な言霊の一撃です。相手の無礼を、鏡のように反射させ、相手自身にその醜さを気づかせる。それが、賢者の返し技なのです。私がこれからお教えするのは、相手を論破する方法ではありません。相手を黙らせ、かつ、あなたの格を数段引き上げる、魔法のような言葉の芸術です。まず、第一の心構えです。腹を据えてください。丹田に力を込めるのです。相手がどんなに偉そうな口を聞こうが、どんなに社会的な地位が高かろうが、そんなものは人間が作ったただのラベルに過ぎません。魂のレベルで見れば、あなたも相手も、同じ宇宙の根源から分かれた神の子です。上下などありません。まず、その絶対的な平等の精神を腹に決めるのです。相手を見上げてはいけません。かといって見下してもいけません。ただ、まっすぐに、相手の目を見るのです。目は口ほどにものを言います。言葉を発する前に、その目で、 私はあなたの無礼に気づいていますよ。私はあなたの言葉に傷つくような安い人間ではありませんよと静かに語りかけるのです。その沈黙の数秒間こそが最強の武器となります。さあ、具体的な場面を想像してみてください。例えば、あなたが何か新しいことを始めようとしたとき、あるいは自分の意見を言ったとき、鼻で笑いながらそんなことできるわけがない。いい年をして何を夢見ているんだと冷笑する輩がいたとしましょう。彼らは常識という名の錆びついた物差しであなたの無限の可能性を測ろうとします。ここで向きになって、いや私にはできると反論しても、相手はさらに嘲笑を重ねるだけです。こういう時は満面の笑みを浮かべてこう返すのです。なるほど、あなたにはそう見えるのですね。その視点は実に興味深い。これだけで良いのです。いいですか。この言葉の真意を解説して差し上げましょう。あなたにはそう見えるということで、相手の意見を否定はしていません。しかし、それはあくまであなたという偏ったフィルターを通した主観に過ぎませんよという事実を突きつけているのです。そして、興味深いと付け加えることで、あなたは相手の評価の対象から外れ、相手を観察する分析者の立場へと瞬時に移動するのです。これは土俵を変える技です。相手はあなたを自分の下の土俵に引きずり下ろそうとしました。ですがあなたはふわりと空へ舞い上がり、上空から相手を眺めるポジションを取ったのです。相手は拍子抜けすることでしょう。のれんに腕をし、ぬかに釘、攻撃したはずの剣が空を切る感覚に、相手は居心地の悪さを感じるはずです。次に、あからさまに侮辱的な言葉、例えばあなたの容姿や過去の失敗や能力を直接的に貶めるようなことを言われた時です。こういう手合いはあなたが傷つく顔、怒る顔、困惑する顔を見たくてたまらないのです。その反応こそが彼らの歪んだ心の栄養になります。ですから絶対にその栄養を与えてはなりません。その時は相手の目を見つめ、一呼吸置いてから心底不思議そうな顔でこう尋ねるのです。今おっしゃったことは、私を傷つけようとして言ったのですか？それとも、私を励まそうとしての冗談ですか？これです。これは聞きますよ。相手の意図を言葉にして確認するのです。悪意を持って攻撃してきた人間にとって、その悪意を白日の下にさらされることほど恥ずかしいことはありません。いや、そういうわけじゃないけどと相手が口ごもったら、すかさずこう言うのです。ああ、よかった。あなたが人を傷つけるような言葉を平気で使う。心の貧しい方でなくて安心しました。どうですか？これで相手は完全に罪です。自分が放った毒矢が、そのまま自分に返ってくる。しかも、あなたは感謝の言葉すら述べている。もはや相手は、二度とあなたに軽口を叩けなくなるでしょう。また、もっと陰湿で、もっとわかりにくい。真綿で首を絞められるような無礼の方が世の中には溢れています。あるいはあなたのためを思ってという顔をしてあなたのやることなすことにいちいちブレーキをかけるパートナー。これらはすべてあなたのエネルギーを奪う魂の強盗です。彼らはナイフではなく無関心や嘲笑という名の毒ガスを使ってあなたの存在を希薄にしようとしてきます。これらに対しても黙っていてはなりません。ですが、大声を張り上げるのは三流だと言いましたね。では、どうするか。ここであなたに最強の武器をもう一つ授けましょう。それ浜の支配です。いいですか。舐められる人間というのは、総じて間が早いのです。相手が何か言えばすぐ反応する。沈黙が怖くて、自分からペラペラと余計なことをしゃべる。これがいけません。相手に合わせないでください。相手の時間軸に巻き込まれてはいけません。あなたはあなたの時間軸で生きるのです。例えば、誰かがあなたを無視したり、適当な相槌を打ったとしましょう。その時、あなたは話を止めてください。完全に、ピタリと止めるのです。そして、無表情で、ただじっとその相手を見るのです。3秒、4秒、5秒、この数秒の沈黙は、相手にとって永遠のように長く、恐ろしいものに感じるはずです。何なんで黙るの？怒ってる？ 相手の脳内に焦りの嵐が巻き起こります。相手が顔を上げ、気まずそうにこちらを見たら、そこで初めて、ゆっくりと低い声でこう言うのです。話を聞く準備はできましたか？これだけでいいのです。怒鳴る必要はありません。ただ、事実を確認する。この一言で、主導権は完全にあなたの手に戻ります。あなたは無視される哀れな人から、対話をコントロールする指導者へと変貌するのです。また、こういう輩もいるでしょう。お前は真面目すぎるんだよ。もっと気楽にやれよなどと、あなたの誠実さをつまらないものとして嘲笑う連中です。彼らは、自分たちが適当に生きていることへの罪悪感を消すために、あなたを堅物という枠に押し込めようとします。そんなざれ言に傷つく必要はありません。むしろ、その言葉を逆手にとって、強烈なカウンターを放つのです。にこりともせず、真顔でこう返してください。ほう。私の真面目さが気になりますか？それは、あなたが普段、いかに物事を適当に済ませているか、という告白に聞こえますが、違いますか？図星を突かれた相手は、顔を真っ赤にしてうろたえるでしょう。攻撃は最大の防御と言いますが、真実は逆です。本質の洞察こそが、最大の攻撃なのです。さらに、あなたのやることにいちいち難癖をつけ、説教じみたことを言ってくると下の人間や、経験の浅い人間がいるかもしれません。あるいは、長年の付き合いで、慣れ合いになり、あなたを雑に扱う友人もいるでしょう。彼らは、あなたのためを思ってという偽善の仮面をかむりながら、実際には自分の優越感に浸りたいだけなのです。そんな時は、相手の話を遮らず、最後まで言わせればよいのです。そして、すべて聞き終わった後に、穏やかな、しかし断固たる声でこう言うのです。ご忠告、痛み入ります。しかし、私の人生の責任を取れるのは私だけです。その結果がどうあろうと、私は私の選択を愛していますから、どうぞご心配なく。これは強烈な宣言です。あなたの領域には誰も踏み込ませないという、聖なる境界線を引く言葉です。ご心配なくと突き放すことで、相手の支配欲を完全に遮断する。あなたは、自分の人生の王であり、女王なのです。その玉座に、他人の土足など上げさせてはなりません。もし、これでも相手が理不尽な要求や、失礼な発言を重ねてきたとき、決して回答しないでください。質問で返すのです。例えば、お前、こんなこともわからないのか、と言われたとします。普通ならすみませんと謝るか、わかってますよと言い訳する。これでは相手の土俵です。そうではなく、冷静にこう聞き返すのです。私がそれをわからないことによって、具体的にどのような問題が生じるとお考えですか？論理的に説明していただけますか？あるいは、お前は本当に使えないなと言われたら、使える使えないという言葉を人間に向かって使うその感性は、どこで育まれたものですか？非常に興味深いので教えていただけますか？と問うのです。相手に考えさせてください。相手に説明させてください。質問を投げ返された瞬間、相手は責める側から答える側へと引きずり下ろされます。そして、感情的に罵倒しているだけの人間は、論理的な質問に答えることができず、しどろもどろになります。その姿を晒させれば、勝負ありです。私が人生をかけて伝えてきたのは、芸術は宗教であり、宗教は芸術であるということです。そして人生こそが、最高の大芸術なのです。いいですか？あなたという作品を、他人の下手な筆で汚させてはなりません。舐められた時というのは、あなたという作品に、墨を塗られそうになった瞬間です。黙って受け入れるのは、その汚れを認めることです。怒り狂うのは、キャンバスを破ることです。どちらも美しくありません。真の芸術家は、その墨すらも利用し、より深い陰影を描き出します。相手の無礼な言葉さえも、自分の魂の輝きを増すための材料に変えてしまうのです。相手が泥を投げてきたら、その泥で陶器を焼きなさい。相手が石を投げてきたら、その石で城を築きなさい。それが、生きるということの醍醐味ではありませんか。しかしながら、言葉の技術だけでは不十分です。 最も大切なのは、その言葉を発するあなたの腹、すなわち腹の座り具合です。声が上ずっていては、どんな名言も響きません。目が泳いでいては、どんな正論も通じません。日々の生活の中で、あなたは自分の腹を練っていますか？人にどう思われるかばかりを気にして、世間の顔色ばかりを伺って、自分の本音を押し殺していませんか？それが、あなたのオーラを薄くし、舐められる隙を作っているのです。今日から、自分との約束を守るのです。嫌なことは嫌だと言う。好きなものは好きだと言う。小さなことでいい。自分の感覚、自分の直感を信じ、それを表現する練習をするのです。自分を大切にする人間は、他人からも大切にされます。これは宇宙の法則です。自分を粗末に扱う人間は、他人からも粗末に扱われる。これもまた、絶対的な法則なのです。あなたは優しすぎるのです。誰に対してもいい人であろうとしすぎている。いい人というのは、都合のいい人の略称になり下がることが多い。私が言いたいのは、悪人になれということではありません。恐れられる善人になりなさい。ということです。優しさの中に、一本の抜き身の刀を隠し持つのです。普段は笑顔で接していても、この一線を越えたら、この人は何をするかわからないという、底知れぬ迫力をまとうのです。それが威厳というものです。威厳とは何か。それは自分との約束を守り続けている人間だけが発する独特の重力です。あなたは自分に嘘をついていませんか？行きたくない飲み会に行って愛想笑いを浮かべていませんか？言いたい意見を飲み込んで周りの空気に合わせていませんか？その小さな裏切りの積み重ねがあなたの魂から光を奪い、他人からこいつは扱いの軽い人間だと見抜かれる原因を作っているのです。今日からノーという練習をするのです。悪いけど、それはできません。私はそうは思いません。それは私の趣味ではありません。断ることは、相手を否定することではありません。自分を肯定することです。あなたが自分の境界線をはっきりと守るようになれば、周りの人間も、あなたの領土に土足で踏み込むことを躊躇するようになります。あの人は、自分の芯を持っているそう認識された瞬間、舐められるという現象は、霧のように消滅します。それから、もっと根源的なお話をしましょう。なぜ、あなたは舐められると腹が立つのか。なぜ、悲しくなるのか。それは、あなた自身が、心のどこかで彼らの言う通りかもしれないと、自分を疑っているからなのです。自分は価値がないのかもしれない。自分はつまらない人間なのかもしれない。そんな自己否定の種が心にあるから、他人の言葉という水を得て、その種が芽を出し、痛みを感じるのです。もしあなたが、心底自分を愛し、自分の価値を確信していたら、他人の雑言など、通りすがりの犬が吠えているのと変わりません。痛くも痒くもないはずです。だからこそ、この戦いは、他人との戦いではありません。あなたの中にある自己否定との最終戦争なのです。鏡を見るのが怖いですか？自分の顔が好きになれませんか？過去の失敗が許せませんか？なんと愚かなことでしょう。その顔、そのシワ、その傷跡、すべてがあなたという英雄が戦い抜いてきた歴史ではありませんか？私は出口鬼三郎。私は自分のことが大好きです。腹が出ようが、はげようが、投獄されようが、私は私を最高傑作だと思って生きてきました。だから、誰が何を言おうと、私の価値は1ミリも揺らぎませんでした。あなたもそうなるのです。ナルシストになれと言っているのではありません。自分の最大の理解者、最大の応援団長になりなさいと言っているのです。朝起きたら、まず自分に挨拶してください。おはよう、今日も最高だぞと。夜寝る前には、自分をねぎらってください。よくやった。お前は偉いと。バカバカしいと思いますか？その冷めた心こそが、あなたを不幸にしている元凶なのです。熱くなりなさい。自分の人生にもっと熱狂しなさい。あなたが自分を熱烈に愛すれば、その愛の炎はオーラとなって溢れ出し、他人の冷ややかな視線など、近づくことさえできずに蒸発してしまうでしょう。私は見てまいりました。多くの人間が、 謙虚さという美名のもとに、自己卑下という猛毒を飲んでいる姿を、謙虚であることと、卑屈であることは、天と地ほども違います。真の謙虚さとは、自分の役割、自分の天分を誇り高く認識し、その上で他者を尊重する態度のことです。自分なんてという言葉は、あなたを作った神への冒涜です。あなたの中に宿る神性を否定する言葉です。二度と使ってはなりません。忘れないでください。言葉は、ただの記号ではありません。言霊です。魂の弾丸です。あなたが発する言葉一つ一つが、現実を変えるのです。ですから、卑屈な言葉、弱気な言葉は、今日限り捨て去ってください。すみませんが口癖になっていませんか。何も悪いことをしていないのに、謝ってはいけません。ありがとうと言い換えなさい。遅れてすみませんではなく待っていてくれてありがとう。私なんかでごめんなさいではなく私を選んでくれてありがとう。謝罪を感謝に変換するだけで、あなたの立ち位置は罪人から恩恵を与える人に変わります。これだけで、周りの扱いは劇的に変わるのですよ。もし、誰かにあなたが見下されたと感じたなら、それは天からの合図です。あなたはもっと高く飛べるはずだ。あなたはもっと自分を誇ってよいのだという、魂からの強烈なメッセージなのです。その不快感は、あなたが本来いるべき高さにいないことへの警告音なのです。ですから、相手に感謝せよとは言いませんが、その出来事には感謝してください。ああ、私は今、自分を低く見積もりすぎていたなと気づくきっかけをくれたのですから。そして、究極の返し技をお教えしましょう。これは、私が獄中にあった時も、理不尽な尋問を受けた時も、常に心に持っていた最強の矛です。それは、沈黙と微笑みです。相手が何を言おうと、ただ静かに微笑んで、じっと相手の目を見つめ続ける。肯定も否定もしない。ただ、深遠な宇宙のような瞳で、相手の存在そのものを包み込んでやるのです。人間は、理解できないものを恐れます。何を言っても動じず、ただ慈愛に満ちた、あるいは全てを見透かしたような目で見てくる人間を前にすると、攻撃的な人間ほど、急激に不安になるのです。こいつ、何者だ。なぜ怒らない。まさか、私の底が見えているのか。そう疑心暗鬼になり、勝手に自滅していきます。沈黙は、金ではありません。沈黙は、雷鳴のごとき雄弁さを持つことがあります。あなたの沈黙が、相手の浅はかな言葉よりも重みを持ったとき、勝負は決しているのです。私はかつて、言葉で世界を立て直そうとしました。新聞を作り、歌を読み、物語を書いた。言霊には、物質を変え、現象を変える力があるからです。あなたが発する言葉は、ただの音の振動ではありません。あなたの未来を作る、建築資材そのものです。私には価値がある。私は愛される存在だ。私は私の人生の支配者だ。そう自分に言い聞かせてください。鏡に向かって、毎日唱えるのです。最初は嘘でもいい。言葉が先で、現実は後からついてきます。あなたが堂々としていれば、周りの扱いは必ず変わります。今まであなたを馬鹿にしていた連中が、急に態度を改めたり、あるいは自然とあなたの前から姿を消したりするでしょう。波動が合わなくなるからです。それが、人間関係の断捨離です。去る者は追わず、来る者は拒まず、あなたの魂の核にふさわしい人間だけが、あなたの周りに残るようになります。人生の後半戦、ここからが面白いところではありませんか。若い頃のように、力でねじ伏せる必要はありません。地位や金で威張る必要もありません。ただ、人間としての深み、魂の重み、そしてユーモアのセンスで、軽やかに世の中を渡っていくのです。シワの一本一本が、あなたの生きてきた勲章です。白髪の一本一本が、知恵の光です。何を恥じることがありましょうか。堂々と胸を張りなさい。あなたが歩けば、そこに道ができます。あなたが笑えば、そこに花が咲く。それくらいの気概を持って生きるのです。あなたはもう、誰かの期待に応えるために生きる必要はありません。親の期待、上司の期待、世間の期待、そんな重たい荷物は、すべて道端に捨ててしまいなさい。あなたは、 あなたの喜びのためだけに生きていいのです。あなたが心から楽しみ、笑い、輝いていれば、人は勝手に集まってきます。そして、輝いている人間を舐めるような愚か者は、光に目がくらんで近づけなくなります。もし、これでもまだ恐怖心が消えないなら、私の名を呼んでください。心の中で、鬼三郎なら、今どう返すか。鬼三郎なら、どう笑い飛ばすか。と問うてみてください。私ならこう言いますよ。がはは。あなたは面白いことを言いますね。ですが、私の魂のサイズには到底合わない服です。あなた自身で起きなさい。と、ユーモアです。深刻になってはいけません。深刻さは死に近づくことです。笑い派生に近づくことです。相手の無礼を笑い飛ばせるようになったとき、あなたは無敵となります。舐められたら、黙らずに返してください。ただし、相手と同じ土俵でキャンキャンと吠える犬になってはいけません。雲の上から雷を落とす竜になりなさい。あるいは、すべてを飲み込む大海原になりなさい。あなたの言葉は、私の魂には届きませんよ。その毅然とした態度こそが、最高の復讐であり、最高の教育であり、最高の愛なのです。最後に、もう一度だけ言っておきます。あなたはこの世に、ペコペコ頭を下げるために生まれてきたのではありません。誰かの機嫌を取るために生まれてきたのではありません。あなたという独自の神話を、堂々と、高らかに歌い上げるために生まれてきたのです。今日、この瞬間が独立記念日です。奴隷の鎖を断ち切りなさい。被害者の服を脱ぎ捨ててなさい。そして、王の衣をまとうのです。道はあります。あなたが歩くその足元に、必ず道は開けます。さあ、顔を上げてください。背筋を伸ばしてください。あなたの中に眠る、荒ぶる神を呼び覚ますのです。私がついています。歴代の偉人たちが、あなたの背中を押しています。今日この瞬間から、あなたは変わる。いや、本来の自分に戻るのです。誰にも遠慮入りません。あなたの人生を、あなたの色で塗り尽くしてください。文句があるやつには、高らかに笑ってこう言ってやればいいのです。私の人生は、私だけのもの。あなたの物差しで測れるほど、私は小さくはありませんよ。と、そして、胸を張って、世界に向かって叫ぶのです。私はここにいる。文句があるならかかってきなさい。だが、私の愛と誇りは、誰にも傷つけられませんよ。と、生きなさい。あなたの魂の輝きで、世界を照らしてやるのです。愛しき魂の戦士よ。私はその勇姿を、いつまでも見守っていますよ。
We understand why there is some hesitation sometimes. Because when your desire is new and fresh, it calls you in a different way, doesn't it? But if you've wanted something for a while, and it seems to be slow in coming, we understand why that desire would not feel so good to you. A desire that is believed or expected feels so life-giving, while a desire that feels like it is not coming, or like it has not come, or like maybe it may never come, those desires are not as pleasant. And the trouble with that distinction is that you can't have some desires that are answerable and some that aren't. In other words, you can't say some desires are appropriate and therefore will be granted, and other desires are inappropriate and therefore will not be granted. In other words, you can't have it both ways. When you ask, it is either given or it isn't. When you ask, the answer comes forth or it doesn't. But what we want you to understand is that everything that you ask for is always answered. When you ask, it is always given, every single time, no exceptions. So, if you have desires that feel as if they are unanswered, it is not because they are not being answered. It is because there is something happening in your vibration that isn't letting them in. And that feeling of freshness or exhilaration that is present with some desires, and that feeling of discouragement or disappointment or worry or even fear that is present with other desires, those emotions that you feel are the telling distinction that you want to be focused about. In other words, every desire is answered, but if it feels fresh and exhilarating to you, you're letting it be answered sooner. If it feels like discouragement, or if it feels like fear, or if it feels like frustration even, then there is something going on in your thinking process that is hindering your reception of what you're asking for. We like to help you to feel the power that you hold in the receiving or the not receiving of your own wishes or desires. Sometimes at first, when our physical friends begin to focus upon the idea of creating their own reality, sometimes you balk at the idea, especially at first, because you're not sure that you are worthy of choosing. Sometimes you balk at the idea of being the creator of your own reality because you are not sure that you are wise enough or worthy enough. And we want, as we're moving forward here today, for you to get that one handled in your own vibration. We want you to leave this gathering no longer questioning the appropriateness of you creating your own reality. Instead, we want you to leave here knowing that not only do you create your own reality, or can you create your own reality, but no one else does. Nobody else is choosing for you. You are choosing. We want you to go with the flow. You've heard the expression, go with the flow. And we want you to realize that in the ultimate sense, what going with the flow means is going with the flow of the ideas that this time-space reality has helped to give birth to within you. In other words, if this environment has inspired the idea within you, it is our promise to you that this environment can fulfill that desire completely. You could not want it if you could not have it or be it or do it. It's not possible. The idea that you have dreamed it means that it can be yours. In fact, we would like to say to you, it means that it must be yours. But you've got to get in sync with your own desire, which means you got to go with the flow of your desire, not against the flow of your desire. How do you know when you're in the flow of a desire? It feels wonderful. It feels like passion. It feels like enthusiasm. It feels like the next logical step. It feels like well-being. How do you know when you're not going with the flow? It feels like frustration. It feels like irritation. It feels like aggravation. It feels like fear. It feels like anger. It feels like suffocation. In other words, when you're not going with the flow of what? The flow of well-being. How do we know it's the flow of well-being? It's the only flow there is. There is only a stream of well-being. You can let it in or not. If someone presses a pillow to your face and you feel deprived or suffocated from the oxygen, do you say somebody has shut the valve off for the whole world? Do you say something has happened and the air that I breathe has been siphoned from the atmosphere and now we all will be suffocated? Or do you say something is going on with me personally that is keeping me from being in the flow of oxygen? There's no source of sickness. There's no source of poverty. There's no source of bad stuff. There's no source of that sickness or stuff you do not want. But there is you, without meaning to, achieving vibrational alignment with how things are instead of with how things are desired. In other words, if you look into some poverty-ridden region or into some shadow in your body that you call illness, or into your checking account that seems to be without funds, and you pronounce, this is my current view of reality, what you're actually saying is, this is, of all the myriad of opportunity to focus that is provided for me here, this is what I'm choosing to give my undivided attention to, and therefore this is what I am choosing as my vibrational basis for now. And you can tell by the way you feel whether this choice is going with the flow of well-being, or whether, for now, you've got a pillow over your face. So, we want, in the hours that are before us, to help you to realize that you are the creator of your own experience, which means you are the author of your vibration, which means you can control with much less awareness than you have perhaps formerly thought what your vibrational output is on every subject, which means you can control the manifestational input on every subject. In other words, you can control who you rendezvous with in traffic, who you rendezvous with in restaurants, who you rendezvous with in telephone calls. You can control the functioning of your body, the longevity of your body, the flexibility of your body, the clarity of your body. You can control the financial influx into your experience. You can control the people who will come to assist you. In other words, you, only you, are the creator of your own reality. And so we would like to help you to acknowledge, at least as a first step here today, that you want to be the creator of your own reality. Because until you acknowledge, yes, I want to do it, then everything that we will say here today will be sort of irrelevant to you. If you don't want to be the creator of your own reality, then we can't really help you here, but we encourage you to stay anyway because you are the creator of your own reality. So whether you know it or not, whether you want it to be that way or not, that is the way that it is. And it is ever so helpful to start relaxing and trusting yourself a little more and saying things such as, well, I am the creator of my own reality, and while I'm not very good yet at being the creator of my own reality, I like the idea at least that I'm the creator of my own reality, and I'm going to start paying attention to the way I feel so that I can start being more the deliberate creator of my own reality. We would like you to begin saying, it is important to me to be aware of how I feel because the way I feel is my indicator of what I'm doing vibrationally. Do you understand that? That your vibration is indicated to you through emotion. Everything around all of us, whether you are physically focused as you are or whether you are non-physically focused as we are, and really there's very little difference between the two, you are full of those like us. In other words, you cannot separate yourself from the non-physical energy and consciousness and awareness and joyousness and intelligence and willingness and helpfulness. That is us. In other words, you can't get rid of us. You can't shake us off. You can't feel bad enough that we ever go away. You can feel bad enough that you don't acknowledge that we're there. You can feel bad enough that you don't hear what we have to say. You can feel bad enough that you don't have the benefit of our presence, but you can never shake loose of your connection to source energy. It can't be done. You are flesh, blood, and bone beings, but you are more vibration than anything else. And the vibration of your being is your point of attraction. It is the signal that is always being answered. So as you make a statement and really mean it, I'm going to do my best to feel as good as I can from where I am right now. That statement is fabulous. That statement is good enough because what you're saying is, I'm going to reach for the best feeling thought I can find. And if you reach from depression and you find a thought of anger, have you ever done that? Have you ever been so depressed or in such despair that anger actually felt like a relief to you? It always would, because the vibrational properties of anger are much more allowing of connection than the vibrational properties of despair. You know why that is? Because all of these emotions, no matter what you call them, all the way from despair to passion or joy, they are all about your sense of freedom and well-being. In other words, up here in the joy range, you feel self-empowered. There is empowerment there. Down there in the despair range, you feel powerless. Don't you find that interesting, that your emotional guidance system is based upon who you really are? That you are these powerful, clear-minded, free beings. You are so free that you can choose bondage. You are free to choose, free to focus, free to offer vibrations, free to attract. Sometimes people will see you as you've moved naturally into anger, And they will say to you, your anger is inappropriate. And we would like you to say to them, maybe so, but I'm happy here. This is my happy zone. I cannot reach the bliss that you have reached right now. This is as good as it gets for me, and it feels so much better than where I've been that I'm going to stay here for a while. So if it's unpleasant to you, I suggest you stay clear of me for a while. Do not worry, say to them, I don't plan on staying here very long because I have this new mantra that says I'm going to continue to reach for the best feeling thought I can find, the best feeling thought I can find, the best feeling thought I can find. So I don't anticipate that I'm going to stay here forever, but for now this is the best feeling thought I can find. I'm working on something in the area of frustration and overwhelmment, but right now this is the best feeling thought I can find. And here is the important thing about this. If you have reached for the angry thought deliberately and have found it, and you can consciously acknowledge that it feels better than where you have been, now you have regained your power, which was what the whole negative emotion thing was about to begin with. That's why once you make that first step into something where you have consciously acknowledged that you're back in control, you can move quickly up the emotional scale. But until you acknowledge that you've done it on purpose and that you have affected the change, then you feel powerless. Then it feels like karma did it to you. Then it feels like your powerful mother did it to you. Then it feels like the government did it to you, or the economy did it to you, or a past life did it to you. You are very creative in all of the ways you explain why things aren't going better. But you never feel good until you acknowledge that you have creative control. The key to this moving up the emotional scale, in fact, it's such a wonderful exercise that we call it moving up the emotional scale. The key to it is reaching for the feeling of relief. There is allowing and there is resisting. And in leaving resistance behind, you find allowing. But the physical, visceral sensation of leaving resistance behind is a feeling of relief. So every time you feel just a little bit better, you have left behind a little bit of resistance. And every time you leave just a little bit of resistance behind, you are allowing more of the things that you've been asking for. So all of those things that have been held in vibrational escrow for you, we're not kidding you. Every time you've been in a situation where contrast has caused you to offer a preference, even if you didn't know you were offering the preference, you didn't speak about it, or you didn't write it down, you didn't say, I have a goal. Every time contrast produced preference within you, it preceded you vibrationally. And non-physical energy, non-physical beings like Abraham, like your inner beings, non-physical beings focused upon the rocket that you launched and are imagining it coming to fruition for you. So there is a pre-paving energy vortex that extends out before you, and it is full of all of the things that you want. All things are possible. You can be or do or have anything that you want. The age factor is not a factor, except that humans think it is. But a human who doesn't think that the age is a factor, it would not be easy to be a human that doesn't factor in what almost every other human factors in, but you could do it. So we want to say, if any desire is strong enough, and by that we mean dominant enough, by that we mean not contradicted by beliefs that are constantly pounding away at it, then any desire can come about. It just does not matter. This is how it goes. So you have this desire, but you have beliefs that mute the desire. You have a desire, but you have beliefs, because your beliefs are based upon what is happening, where your desire is based upon what you want and what's in your vortex. And so your beliefs are the things that mute your desires. And so most humans don't have really pure desires. You've got desires that are muted because a belief is just a thought you continue to think, and a desire is a thought that you think too. So if you're giving some airtime, so to speak, to your desires, that's wonderful. But if you're giving equal or more airtime to a belief that is in contradiction to the desire, then the mix of your vibrations is the way your life plays out. And there are people who have been with us for quite a long time that still have that experience of realizing, as things play out from time to time, that they've got more hindering beliefs than they realized that they had, because a lot of people are not really owning up to how they really feel about things. They've learned to say words that sound positive, and then they fool themselves by believing that what they're saying is what they're offering vibrationally, until life plays out and shows them something different. Most people learn limitation from their parents and from those who are around them, because most people learn their vibration from what they're observing, and most people are not even coming close to living their dreams. That's why the handful of those that have that kind of success is a handful of those who have that kind of success. You see, here's the thing about desires, and we might as well be the ones to break the news to you. Your desires never stop being your desires. You can resist them by not letting them flow. You can get weary of trying for something that you can't move on, but we want you to know that the only reason anybody's not moving in the direction of their desire is because that's not the direction they're looking. Most people are so busy telling the story of what was, or even the story of what is, that they hold themselves in a vibrational frequency that doesn't let them have the satisfaction of moving in the direction of their desire. Satisfaction doesn't come only when you move in the direction of your desire and get all the way there. Satisfaction comes in the moment that you begin moving in the direction of your desire. When you stop swimming upstream is when satisfaction begins to come. When you start swimming with the flow. And this is what we want to make so clear with every word that Esther can find to match the vibration that we're offering, is that because you've already put it into your vortex, and your vortex is spinning with the power of the universe, and law of attraction has already gathered the cooperative components, and everyone who is non-physical and adoring you and rooting for you is calling you toward what you're asking for. That's a really powerful stream that really is the path of least resistance. And when you let go of doubts and fears, when you let go of the thoughts that bring the doubts and the fears, then you have the satisfaction of moving in the direction of it. And so you're not going to get any encouragement from us to give up on something you want. The emotion is the indicator of the vibration. We don't want you to say it's doubt and fear that's holding you back. The feeling of doubt and the feeling of fear is the indicator of the thoughts that are holding you back. In other words, seeing it and feeling whole with it and not feeling any sympathy or empathy about some plight, but instead being forward-looking toward the well-being that you're seeking. And so things are always working out for you. And the thing that hangs humans up is that you have a desire, you know what you want, but you don't know how or where it's going to come about. And so you let those factors that you don't know the answers to be too active in your vibration, which introduces the resistance into the situation. You know, you can accomplish more toward anything that you want by daydreaming than by getting real and setting goals. We want to demonstrate something we've been doing that people are appreciating it. So you're moving along in your vehicle. We were discussing an occupation with someone not long ago, and she used the word vehicle, the vehicle meaning her current way of earning money. She referred to it as a vehicle. So we took the literal meaning of a vehicle and put it into this analogy. So you're moving along in your vehicle, whatever it is, and it's getting the job done. But there are things missing in it that you would like, but it's getting the job done. And so you're feeling satisfaction, eager for more, but satisfied with what is. But after you live some life, and you're asking for more and asking for more and asking for more. Now, what you're asking for is way over here, but you're nowhere near that vibrationally. Not just you. We're talking about this is a theoretical offering. But you're asking, and because you're asking for it, because life is causing you to ask, even not with your words. When you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. So you're asking. When you ask, it is always given, and your mother and all of us are in on it, and the law of attraction and the energies that create worlds are all in on it, and the cooperative components are being gathered, and so cooperative components are coming. So then another vehicle, all of a sudden, that you didn't realize was there before is right there. And you look over, So you just effortlessly and seamlessly and with great ease and no disruption to your life, you just move into that vehicle, which is just really nice. And you just move along in that vehicle, and then life produces another one. Better still. And then you just move along in that vehicle. And then life produces another one. And the more you are leaning toward what you want, the faster those come, and the brighter they are, and the sooner you recognize them, and the greater ease with which you move into them. And then we said to this woman, who was the reason that we created this analogy, and she felt great relief. She felt a great breakthrough when we said it to her. And we're giving it to you for the same reason. We said, you know what you've been doing? You've wanted to go from that vehicle to that one. And because you can't, that's the genesis of your doubt. That's the reason that you don't believe. But if you can do some segment intending, then after a while, you begin to show yourself, you begin to demonstrate to yourself the universe's attention upon you, the worthiness of your being, and most of all, you begin to demonstrate your receptivity to that, because you're not asking for a receptivity that is too far away for you to find. Jerry always said, as he was coaching people in financial matters, put your basket out far enough that if you hit it, it's going to thrill you, but not so far that you don't think you can. Esther sat ready to come to play with you today and did her segment intending, wrote it out. We're going to have so much fun in there today. And we're going to have new discussions. And we're going to take old discussions, this is an old one, and we're going to talk about it in new ways. And people are going to feel the clarity of the new place. In other words, she just took great delight in her segment intending daydream about what was going to happen in here even before it happened. Not as a prediction and not as a creation, but because those thoughts felt so good to her, she wanted to think them. This is a new segment. What do I mean? I'm going to get in my vehicle, it's a new segment. Or I'm answering the telephone, it's a new segment. Or I'm placing a call, it's a new segment. Anytime anything changes from one moment to the next, it's a new segment. And the more of those that you can stop in a realization that it is a new segment that might ask from you more focused clarity about what you prefer from the segment, then the more efficient you are at segment intending. We've been talking about segment intending for a very long time, but today we're talking about segment intending with the umbrella important understanding of that's the way you get out ahead of things. And so we're saying you've been trying to get too far out ahead of things, further out ahead of them than you can believe. And so in the moment that you activate an end of a stick, when you pick up a stick, let's say the stick you picked up is money. This is a good discussion. Let's say the stick you've picked up is the money stick. And on one end of it is abundance, and on the other end of it is lack of abundance. And you're somewhere on that stick. And the reason that you are where you are on that stick is because of the way life has touched you and the way you have responded to it. So you have vibrational patterns of thought, or what we call beliefs or expectation about money. So when you set a goal about money, so you activate the stick, you pick up the stick about money, you don't just go to the end where you want to be, you go to the place where you are. You've activated it where you are. It's where you last left it, you see. You can't be other than where you are. You can't all of a sudden say, I want to believe differently than I do. Life is blending from what you have lived to what you are living to what's coming next. We just want you to be aware of this blending. And if you will consciously acknowledge the blending and make a decisive determination, I am where I am, I'm going to look back less and I'm going to look forward more, and I'm going to do a better job for me of segment intending. I'm going to say more of the things that I want. So you get in your automobile. This is going to be a nice drive. This is going to be a comfortable transport from here to where I'm going. And I'm going to rendezvous with other drivers who are considerate. We're going to be cooperative components. You can segment intend. And as you become often a more consistent segment intender, in not very much time, you will begin to notice the difference in the way those segments feel to you. You will begin to realize that you're moving yourself on this vibrational stick closer and closer to what you want, so that then you will be privy to more and more information that your inner being knows. Your inner being knows what your path of least resistance is. Your inner being doesn't say, oh, you've got so much resistance. We wish you didn't have so much resistance. We're going to try to help you through your resistance. Your inner being doesn't even acknowledge that resistance is a negative issue, because your inner being knows that contrast is such a positive thing. Your inner being just knows that where you are and where you are wanting to be, that there are paths that are easier for you and paths that are more difficult for you, and your inner being is always calling you along the easiest path, the path of most allowance, or the path of least resistance. But humans, you're so busy wanting to prove worthiness or be right or defend where you are or justify what you've been doing that you don't let yourself find the path of least resistance easily. Society as a whole will criticize you. Think about it. The majority of people that you know or that you bump up against or that you hear dialoguing through media and so forth, so many people talk smack about people who have money while every one of them wants more money. Talk about a contradiction in vibration. The very thing that they want, they are condemning all day, every day, because they are trying to justify where they stand in the absence of what they want by talking about it as if it is wrong. Well, that's not going to get anybody to where they want to be, you see? Creation is so simple that it makes you all annoyed, because conceptually it's simple, but in practice you've got some resistance to release. And so our message to you is some version of this. In any moment we're doing one of two things. We're either speaking to you in a way that helps you release resistance, in which case you'll move toward what you want more easily, or we're speaking about focusing upon what you want, in which case you'll move toward what you want more easily. And so sometimes, because of the way you feel, it's better to just try to release the resistance. And that's when we say, just go general. We get it that life has caused you to believe what you've been witnessing. We understand that what you're seeing around you physically and the statistics that you've gathered and the results that you've been living are why you believe what you believe. But we also know that that's a regurgitation of life. That's a reaction to life. That's not the deliberate creating that you came here to do. In that case, you and everyone else who's doing it, which includes almost everyone else, you are letting the resistance of your time and space inhibit you and prevent you from what you want. The very resistance that gave birth to your desires, you're now using against the desire. And we want you to put step 1, 2, 3 in their proper order. We want the contrast or resistance that you feel to be the reason that you ask for more, that gives birth to the new idea, and then source energy gets all over the new idea, focuses unequivocally on the new idea, and never for a moment does not believe that you can be or do or have whatever it is that your life has caused you to ask for. These are good times, and there is great love here for you. And for now, we remain eternally incomplete.